So, hi everyone. So, now we are going to start the second session on the services sector, and it is about how we have gone through. So, in the last lecture we talked about how we can think about the India's economy, and in terms service sector boost, how service sector provided a different outlook. In this particular session, we will be having some historical background about this particular sector and the recent trends and the issues that we should be discussing about. So, this is lecture 18 of the course Indian Economy, some contemporary perspective, and this is linked to the service sector 1 lecture. So, this particular lecture will give you a complete idea about the recent trends and the historical aspects. Reference reading materials will remain the same like lecture 1, the previous lecture. But for the sake of just for your reference, I have just mentioned it here. Now, Indian IT sector. So, if you go back and the article of, as I mentioned, the Karki and Cameron, then this particular article mentions that India had the first computer in 1955, and it was installed at ISI Calcutta, Indian Statistical Institute. And then the second round of computer system, and it was supplied by USSR at that point of time, and ISI Calcutta is called Indian Statistical Institute. And then the second round we had 2 more computer systems given to Hindustan Aeronautics and the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. And then in 1967, Government of India took a step in terms of having the electronics, giving a particular shape to the electronics sector. So, they had set up Electronics Corporation of India, ECIL, in 1967. And once we have the computer system in 1955, so it was by the firm International Business Machines, IBM, and it has supplied the versions of computer to Indian Institute. And in the beginning, the computer was mostly used by government organizations and the R&D organization, research and development organization. And during 1955-1977, the IBM had the market share of computers in India by 70%. Then in 1971, Government of India set up a committee headed by MGK Menon committee, and this committee had recommended, it is also called as Electronics Commission, and it had recommended setting up 2 institutions. So, Computer Maintenance Corporation, CMC, and the Semiconductor Complex that we have, SCL, in 1976. So, this commission, which is called Electronics Commission, this commission also gave birth to these institutions, and these institutions had given a lot of advantage to the growth and development or flourishing of the ECIL. Then in 1977, we had introduced the law on the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act came in, and then it was the issue of declaring the equities, and IBM did not declare those equities, which was about 40%, and that is why. So, in any foreign firm will have to have some kind of collaboration, and then IBM had to leave by 1977, and then from that onwards our own the domestic policies were more in line with the support of the growth of this particular sector. Then in 1983, we had a new electronics policy, and this particular policy also gave rise to the growth and development of this particular sector. So, by 1983, Indian computer hardware industry, that we call it as ICSHI, dominated by the private companies, and it was HCL. Then we had Wipro, particularly in the sphere of hardware and operating system. Then in 1984, Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister, and then he introduced the new computer policy, and he took a lot of measures because these were the 1980s era. So, we were undertaking liberalization measures, and then he took measures on rationalization of import duty of peripherals and whatever the computer parts that you want to import from outside, liberalization on import of computers, and recognizing software as a separate industry. So, for the first time in 1984, we had gone for introduction of this new computer policy. At that time, there were a lot of upheavals about this particular policy, because there was some kind of understanding that if you have computers, then this will replace the humans, and humans will have no job, and that is why at that time this particular government had to face resistance from different labor unions at that point of time. allowed import of computers by government institutions, research and development organizations. So, government allowed these things, and these were the major reasons why even at that time the private companies took the help or took the advantage of these measures, and they started importing technology. There were technological transformation, and there were dissemination of information at every level. In the beginning, one good thing that the government had done is that it had used this for research and development, so that we can go for setting up our or go for having some kind of import substitution policy. So, in 1984 this was the case. So, new computer policy is known for that, and it also led to the development of widespread the development of different networks. In 1988 we had National Association of Software and Service Companies, NASSCOM, and this company became one of the lobbying group of IT sector, and this IT sector business processing, and we still have this particular sector as a dynamic sector to support this. So, this particular NASSCOM is considered as one of the case studies to be considered for the expansion of one particular activity. So, in case of India, if the service sector is leading, especially the IT and the business processing, then NASSCOM is considered one of the major important institutions. Then we also emphasize on the localization of computer services in terms of having language advantages. So, at that time graphics Indian script terminal was developed by IIT Kanpur, and then after that this particular computer industry registered an impressive growth. So, if you can see the industry turnover, the computer industry turnover, then in year 1983 it has the turnover of 125 crore, and then in 1984, 1985, 86, 87. So, 85, 86, 87 we can see that the growth has reached 69%. It was recorded in during 1985, 86. And then after that it declined, but still it was high. So, 1985, 86, 86, 87, 87, 88 is considered as the major contributor of the India software industry. But after that there was a stabilization phase, and then the in terms of growth it was not reflected, but in terms of the widespread coverage of activities, backward and forward linkages started giving benefits to the economy. So, you can see that from 1982-83 we had the turnover of only 125 crore. By 1990-91 we had the 1000 crore turnover. So, that shows that even less than 10 years how much we have given the impetus to this particular sector and how it has grown over a period of time. So, 1985-86, 1986-87, 1987-88 it is called as the era of the IT, especially the computer industry. The sales of leading computer hardware companies, if you compare, then we had the HCL, Wipro and Sterling, one company at that point of time, and we can see that how it has gone up in terms of the sales also. So, these are in terms of crores. So, this was the turnover at that point of time. So, and then in terms of employment, if you compare, then we have the agriculture industry. So, employment in terms of share, if you find, then we had in 1993 it was almost 61%, then it came down to 47.1 in 2011-12. Industry again 16 to it reached to just 24.4. Services it remained more or less stagnant. So, it is 22.9, it is just 28.5. And this is considered as one of the major cause of concerns, but in terms of income generation this particular sector has generated more income for the economy. Trade, hotels this also contributed a lot. Transport, storage and communication, this also has a quite reasonable amount of contribution and growth, but all others we did not see that much coming, especially in financial services and insurance, real estate and business services, though the income contribution might be higher, but in terms of sector wise employment trends we do not see that much change, and that is why it shows just that there was a requirement to, and that is why these are the concerns of the service sector growth, but in terms of income generation this sector generates more than that. Then we have the sector wise trade performance. So, if you see in terms of percentage, so the trade share, if you see 2008-9, 2018-19, 2008-9, 2000, this is the export, this is import. If you see in terms of export and import, then we find that software services, business services, software services has the largest share in terms of export. Business services also has the largest share, so it is 18 and 19. So it is almost like during 2018-19 it has come down 44 and 40, but these are the marginal variations. But you, in terms of overall share, what we find that transportation, the first is software services, then we have business services, and in terms of imports we find that business services have more, so 29 and 32, but in service sector is having more in terms of the percentage share. So 44% now we have a export basket. In terms service sector export basket consists of 44% from software services, then we have business services 18%, then we have travel 10%, transportation 11%, and financial services 42%. So these are the numbers that we have. Travel we have 2008-9 18, then here we have 2018-19 we have 17, then here we have a transportation, again imports, you can see now numbers are going down more or less, and then here also it is going down more or less. The only thing is that in terms of business services it has gone up, so that could be because of the type of service requirements that we meet, and that's why it is having such type of trend. Recent trends and developments, if you see, then even state wise the service sector has more share. So that's why this particular sector requires a different type of treatment. So in terms of services, this is the GVA growth that we have, the gross value added. This is the overall GVA growth, gross value added, and in terms of this you find that everywhere we have the services sector GVA growth higher than the overall GVA growth, and even the states that we have more reliant on the services are Chandigarh, Delhi, Manipur, then we have Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Kerala, Karnataka. So this is the trend that we have. So even as per the economic survey, more than 18 states are now having more than 55% share of services in their activities. Even those states which are not of IT hub, but still their share is also higher. So that's why it could be because of the public administration and defense services that we have. This is the breakup that I have got for the IT and BPM exports. So if you compare IT and BPM export, then we find that we have still the market more market oriented, and this is one of the reasons why we are more concerned about the growth outlook of these countries, because if these countries will do well, our service sector is expected to do well because we receive major income from these countries. So if you see the market of the services sector, then what we find that the UK is still leading. In 2018-19, as per the economic survey 2019-20, 84% of the IP or BPM industry export is concentrated in the US. Then here you have the UK, then Europe, and then the Asia Pacific. Now here one thing to note why I mentioned here, because when we read in newspaper that why our service sector is not doing good, though it has mentioned that this year it will be the growth rate of 7.7%, but still this particular sector requires immediate attention from the outlook of other countries, because if the outlook is not good, then the income generation from these activities will not be more, because they rely on the product. So that's why the visa rule of US is going to impact. It was anticipated that this will impact badly because service sector rely more on the activities in this. So the spread of computer services, the network systems, and different business processing activities, IT information technology enabled services in these countries help the service sector growth in our country, because we have the back offices of major companies operating in these companies located in Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, and all other places. And that's why the government is now more focusing on the manufacturing, because manufacturing gives you boost in terms of not just exports but also domestic activity. So there is more likely that industrial output will be consumed better than these services activities. But in domestic sphere also the service sector has contributed a lot, not just from the perspective of nowadays we have the digitization process. Under that we have undertaken different measures to just to make sure that our service sector is not dependent on outside services only. So so automation of railway ticketing system, from the banking, then there are financial services automated. Now we are going for digitization of records. We are also gone for setting of the tax collection system, wherein we have the computerized computerized records maintenance, and these developments are going to be further added in future, and this will further create extra market for the services sector. So, just to give you the recent facts, I have already mentioned in the beginning, the first slide was about this. Just to recap everything on the services sector. So, service sector receives the 2/3 of India's FDI, 38% of total exports during 2018-19. Information broadcasting, air transport, telecommunication, consultancy services, hotel and tourism were the major receivers of FDI. Across states, service sector now is having more than 50% share in 15 out of 33 states, which means that these states are now more sensitive to the service sector growth. Financial services, as per the economic survey 2018-19, it was mentioned that financial services and audiovisual service have been identified as the champion service sector, and there is a special focus on the development of this, because champion sectors are having the focused strategy to expand this sector. Top 5 states. So, since tourism is also one subsector of this service sector, and in tourism the government has given more emphasis on having the emphasis on going for promotion of foreign tourism, for foreign tourists coming to India, and even the domestic tourism for the local people. So, it is one area where the government is now focusing on. There is also a controversy about that the tourism is neither part of the union list nor the state list. So, the center and states are not very clear about prioritizing the tourism sector. So, now the tourism industry is lobbying with the government that this tourism should be the part of the concurrent list, not the state and not the center. And that is why it looks like that going ahead this particular sector is going to be. So, the top 5 sectors which accounted 65% of the total domestic tourists include Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra. And so, if you think in terms of the overall the tourism sector outlook, so this particular sector needs a special attention, because now during the pandemic this particular sector is badly hit. But overall, as per the economic survey 2019-20, 65% total domestic tourists include Tamil Nadu and this. There is also a special emphasis to set up National Center of Excellence for animation, visual effect, gaming and comics in the Mumbai Goregaon. It was mentioned, and it is monitored by Indian Institute of Mass Communication in New Delhi, and this is just to make sure that this audio visual service sector is expanding. So, now the government has given incentive for shooting even foreign movies in India, and even Indian movies can go outside. So, there is a whole lot of effort to revive the industry. So, the NCOE envisioned to impact the quality education in animation, gaming, visual effect, and there is a whole lot of effort to create the role on the education of animation and other activities. The government had decided to set up Film and Television Institute. So, in northeast part of India, we hardly have that much emphasis on the film and television. So, government has sanctioned an institute there, and this particular institute will also be set up. Now, under subsector the space programs are also added. So, now the ISRO and the Airport Authority of India have come up, and they are going for the satellite added navigation, and these two schemes are under the Gagan and the navigation IC, and these two are going to have the game changer in terms of air traffic control and how we can help. So, under service sector, and one more thing, if you read the service sector chapter in the economic survey, then you find that there is a whole lot of mentioning about the space program, how government has gone for increasing the investment, because this is one of the exciting areas to look for, and India is one of the countries which has launched the maximum number of satellites, and there is a There is also emphasis to link it with the different programs in India running through, or the different in terms of geotagging, and also in terms of expansion of the market for different activities. So, the space program is going to be helpful in this, not just for the sake of telecommunication. Since in this particular session I have not covered telecommunication that much, because telecommunication is already well covered in the industrialization process when we had discussed, and that is why I thought it is better to focus mostly on the now. Coming to the recent developments that we have. So, in the modern or I would say in the contemporary context, in the last 5 years, what we have seen is that services sector has reached to a stage where due to change in the business operation environment, there is a whole lot of need to train the populace, the existing workforce. So, there is a whole lot of need to think about skilling and reskilling, which means that we have to skill the younger generation, those who are going to enter in the job market, but those who are already employed, there is need to go for reskilling. So, under the Startup India program, Skill India program, there is a whole lot of effort to generate or go for grooming of the young generation, so that this IT industry or the IT enabled services industry may be able to continue with the same set of energy and strength that they have been. There is also some kind of threat of automation and loss of job that people are anticipating, because now most of the IT industries are emphasizing on automation, and there is a likelihood that around 30% and workforce will be losing their job due to automation. So, this is also one of the important need to focus on how we can think about. And since we are into the era, and even the budget of last 2 years has highlighted the role of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain, machine learning, virtual reality, and even in terms of technological advancement, there is a need to train or have the skill training of these new modern developments in the era of the technology that we are seeing. And India, since we have already taken measures and we have already Institute of Excellence across the country, even in IIT. So, it is expected that this shortage will be fulfilled very soon. There is also a need to give a special focus on the telecommunication and tourism industry, because in case of India, tourism is still considered as not that important subsectors of the service sector, and there is a whole lot of effort, and there is a whole lot of effort to reorient the policy according to the new changes that we are observing in case of service sector. For instance, after COVID-19, there is a industry lobby working for this particular tourism industry. They have requested the government that there should be some kind of relaxation given under GST norms, because most of the tourism industry rely on the hotel and restaurant industry, and that is why if these two subsectors will be given incentives, then of course this will further help in boosting the tourism industries and also the transport sector. So, now there is a whole lot of effort to enrich those areas where there is a whole lot of scope for going for the tourism. The need to include travel and tourism in either union or state lists. As I mentioned, that tourism is so far not added either in the union list or the state list. So, there is a need to emphasize on that. Rationalization in indirect tax structure to go for the tourism sector. So, this is the main findings that we found. Now, overall what it looks like, that what we have mentioned so far, that the services sector, if you try and analyze, so service sector has done well in terms of IT processing. Then we also have the services sector exports. Now, we can see that the business services and the IT software exports are leading, but there is also a concern coming from the global economic perspective, that as long as the share of service sector will be higher in GDP, we will be having more reliant on the external sector outlook. and also there is a whole lot of need to focus more on the development of the sector, not just from the perspective of going for the sector and the development, but also from the perspective of how we can go and make this make India as a service sector hub. In the same way, we have gone for the Make in India policy. We should, or new manufacturing policy that we had in 2011. Under that, we had gone for having the special package for special economic zones. Special economic zones are added to the services sector, and service sector have also reaped the benefit of this. So that's why you will find that in Hyderabad, in Bangalore, and all other places, you have a special economic zones of the services sector also. But there is a need to come up separately for the services sector roadmap in consultation with NASSCOM, so that this particular sector will grow. Apart from this, in service sector, I would recommend that you should focus, one should read the service sector chapter of economic survey, because that gives us the revealed comparative advantage of the India. Then you will find that how Indian economy is leading with other countries in what all activities, how are we dealing with. The service sector chapter is also important to focus on the other emerging areas. For example, insurance, real estate. Real estate is also one major service provider that we have a major subsector in India, especially in services subsectors. So those for those things, I would recommend the audience to please refer that chapter, and whatever reference paper that I have mentioned, it is very useful, and you should always it is good if you could go through. Now since I have done already this service sector, in the next session we will be having more about the financial sector reforms and how banking and financial services has gone up. Thank you so much.